You'll often hear advice for entrepreneurs about how to start their own business. How do you start their own business? The startup, the startup, the startup. Well, there's another way to become an entrepreneur, and that's actually to acquire a business. We're talking a lot more about entrepreneurship through acquisition. People are hearing about it, people are thinking about it. But finding that right company and buying it and integrating it and all that, a lot of challenges that go along with that particular path. Our next guest is hoping to address some of those challenges. Her name is Liz MacRae, and she is the co-founder and president of Village Wellth. She joins us today from Calgary, Alberta. Hello there.
Hello, Bruce. Thank you so much for having me.
Entrepreneurship through acquisition is having a bit of a moment. What do you see as the opportunity for individuals and for the economy about raising our game here in the business of buying businesses?
Absolutely. It's a tremendous time in history where we're starting to see businesses owned by people who are preparing for retirement look at what are they going to do now with this company that they've grown and thrived in, and that has provided for their families and their employees, and where is it going to go, and who's going to take on their legacy. So this transition, they call it the succession tsunami,
Mhm.
and we're here trying to meet the need and drive demand from the other side of things for acquirers.
There are some models in which this has been happening since the beginning of time. Like, for example, a financial advisor's practice or an accountant's practice. There's kind of a way to do it. Less so when it's more of a personality based business, or maybe it's like a dry cleaner or something like that. I don't even know how that works. What are some of the challenges that buyers face in walking this particular path?
Yeah, there's a tremendous number of challenges that they face. One of them is finding these companies to begin with. When a business is for sale, they usually don't, put a sign out front. They usually tell no one. Well, how do you
Right.
find something that's for sale when nobody's talking about it
Yeah.
and you can't find it? So that's one of the challenges that buyers face is, well, when I decide I'm going to set out to do this, how do I go about finding it? And then the process as well eludes people. When you think about buying your first home, and you've often got a real estate agent, and the seller's got a real estate agent, and then you've got a mortgage broker who's helping you find your capital. And in this end of the market, the small business side of the market, is you don't really have that luxury to go out and find an advisor for a price point that fits you. There are advisors out there that do it, but usually they're upper tiered in the price point, and the person who's selling the business is often, they're the business owner's representative, and they will work as an intermediary. It's called a business broker, and they will do their best to work as an intermediary. But at the end of the day, the buyer is still left with questions, and they're left a little bit lost in the process, to be
Mm.
honest. So that's another one of the issues.
How do they address the financial aspect of this kind of a transaction? Because with a house, there's comparables. With a franchise, they outline, what your expenses are going to be, and they've got some modeling based on the real estate you're going to put your franchise in or whatever. How sophisticated are the financials in these kinds of transactions? And can a buyer have visibility into what they're actually getting themselves into?
Yes. Um, it's not as transparent as people would like. Small businesses, oftentimes the owners are living and breathing inside the business. So there are lots of expenses or discretionary items that are often in the financials. And so it does take some skill to understand and get up to speed about how to interpret the financial statements in small businesses when it comes to how do I access capital for them. And so the banks are, their banks are very familiar with how to look and review at these at companies, and the banks are building programs and changing some of their viewpoints on small business acquisitions. And
Hmm.
there's an appetite from the institutions on doing these deals. And then the other source of capital is people are leaning to investors, and they're raising capital
Hmm.
from investors to make these acquisitions happen.
So, what role does Village Wealth play? How do you engage on this?
Thank you. We nurture people all along the journey. And so we are a hybrid technology company as well as a service provider company. And so our technology, we have an in-house marketplace where people can find companies for sale, and we are in the process of building management software, so you can nurture and follow along with all the deals that you're looking at, and help evaluate them. And then on the service side, we start with folks who are even in this early stages of ideation of, is this even for me? What is buying a
Mm.
business? So we have a 6-week course that people participate in cohorts virtually, and they kind of come along in this exploration with us. And then our other programming is for people who have committed to buying, and they need some extra tools and tips and support in finding a company for sale. And then we also support in like a finance concierge um, kind of role when they
Mm.
found a company and they want to access capital for their acquisition.
What are the biggest pitfalls that you would flag in terms of an entrepreneur finding the right fit? Because, if this is dating, you've got your phone, you flip right, you look at the photo, you have a low stakes coffee. If it goes somewhere, great. If it doesn't, no worries. How would you help people think about what to look for? Like what really matters?
Yeah, great. I love that question. And we see people, taking, yes, it is sort of like dating. You go and you have the meeting and that sort of thing. And we see people who come on too strong and then come on too light and don't come on, don't come on strong enough. I'd say, part of it, some people say that it doesn't matter what the business is, it just has to make money. And then some people say, oh, it has to relate to, you have to be passionate about the business. I'm a big believer that your skill set should complement the business, and you should be able to bring experiences and skill sets that you have into this business. So you want to be able to contribute value from your career into this business and take it forward. So it's got to fit on, it does have to fit on both a personal level, as well as a financial level, as well as like a logistic level too. If you're buying a business that's also going to fit into your life and your lifestyle, you want to make sure that the way that you want to spend your time is a fit in this business as well. So we look at a multifaceted approach to how does this company fit for you, because it's not just one or the other. It's not just financials. It's not just what you're passionate
Mm.
about. uh, it's
What
multi.
are some of the things that might surprise people that are different for a founder owner versus an acquirer owner? Because you referenced, like a lot of these people who founded the business, it is blood, sweat, and tears. It was built over decades. They lived above the shop. And then you've got someone who's got perhaps a more logical frame of reference. It's more about a rigorous approach to the financials and profit opportunity, and they're not willing to work 16 hours a day. What are things people should understand and go in with eyes wide open?
I think one of the things that we see people underestimate is the culture. And you hear of this in big M&A too, is the culture integration. But in this situation, there's not an integration. You're stepping into a culture that already exists. And without those people in that company, if they all left because they don't like you, the company
Oops.
dissolves. And I think people underestimate the HR and the culture and how these people really drive that company forward, and how you are going to manage and interact and support these people once you have ownership. Like, there's a lot of emphasis on the financials and the projections and the growth potential and all of this, and then you get in and you're the leader of these
Yeah.
people. And I think they underestimate that.
What is the essence of an entrepreneur? And I ask because I graduated from business school, corporate job, traditional TV job, and I was meeting with an entrepreneur. And I said, well, I'm not an entrepreneur. And he was like, BS. Yes, you are. And here's why. He said, you're someone who is curious and creative and driven and passionate. That's the essence of an entrepreneur. And years later, I ended up leaving my job and starting my own company. But it took a real mindset, because what I thought an entrepreneur was versus what it actually was completely disconnected.
Right. Yeah. And I think it is for a great many people. They look at entrepreneurship in awe sometimes from the outside looking in. And I think from my perspective, I feel like it's resilient and resourcefulness.
Hmm.
So resilient in, things are going to happen and you've got to keep going, and you pick yourself up and you keep going. and resourcefulness. And like, you don't have to have all the answers. You don't need to know everything. You need to know where to find it, and you need to know how to grow a good network so that you can help find those answers and bring the right people around you, to build teams, because teams and people are what move projects and organizations forward.
Just before we go, with any advisory practice, there's a business model. Someone's paying somebody. How does that work at Village Wellth?
Yeah, great question. So our advisory, we've designed our programming and services so we nurture people down this path, and we start in groups as much as possible until they actually need the one-on-one direct support. And then we have our director of capital advisory who works with those people once they hit a certain stage. But what we're trying to do is try and bring this content and this pathway to more people. So that's where our software comes in play, is we're leaning more toward AI and how can an advisor be used at the most critical points and still be there to provide comfort to our members, but not in all the ways that they traditionally have been leaned on. And so we're building software to break apart some of those service pieces that a traditional advisor would provide so that we can help more people.
Really interesting. Liz, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Bruce. This has been wonderful.
It's great to have you. Liz MacRae, president of Village Wellth. She was here to talk about entrepreneurship through acquisition and ways her organization can speed that process up and reduce some of the challenges that buyers face.